Hey decorators, this is Kirk and this is AJ and we're with Heat Transfer Warehouse. And today we're going to talk about when you're pressing either vinyl or die sublimation, we're going to talk about heat presses, and that's the cornerstone of your application in business. So stick around. So three key elements we're going to talk about with heat presses. The first one, AJ, is time. So what should I be looking for there?
Really, when it comes to time, when it comes to pressing your heat transfer vinyl with a heat press, you're going to see a whole range of different heat presses. You're going to see craft presses that come with a kitchen timer. You're going to see a medium range heat press that come with one timer. And then at the high end of heat presses, you're going to see a timer with multiple timers. You're going to see auto open, so you don't have to worry about it being longer, or it's going to be right on what you need it for. So a whole wide range of time with different heat presses is going to be very crucial in what level of heat press you buy.
So I see those ones that have the multiple timers. Why would I want that?
So different times means when you're doing some layering. So if your first press for your application is for 3 seconds, and then you have to peel and then press for another 10, that's where that's going to come into play. If you're doing layering, where you need to tack that first layer, and then your second layer is for the full 15 seconds, that's where you use the multiple times. So really in a high production environment, and you don't have to worry about somebody, an employee kind of messing something up, that's where you're going to be able to set those times, and they should be able to follow through with it.
Very clever. I like that. So the value and making sure you have some of those proper timers makes sense. Now we're going to roll on and think about it as the number 2 tip is obviously pressure. And I heard that's really important with the heat press.
Yeah, so you're going to get different pressure when it comes to a clamshell or a swing away. With a clamshell, you're going to remember when a clam comes down, it's going to essentially hit here first and then come down. So you always going to kind of worry about having that adequate pressure, but the most popular heat press out there is a clamshell heat press. No matter what anybody tells you, it's the most popular style heat press out there, and you are going to get adequate pressure. It's more when you get into thicker things you don't have that you worry about getting less pressure here. Swing aways and the straight down presses, those are more common in the die sublimation world. So when those come, they swing out and then come, you can have a open display. Be able to lay out your sublimation substrate and then press with a straight down application, and that's where you're going to get pressure.
So if I want to test my pressure, is there a way to do it, kind of like to see if my press is at least giving decent pressure, so I at least know I'm going to properly press that garment?
Yeah, so most heat presses are going to come with a pressure control somewhere. If it's a knob on top or a dial or anything like that, that's how you're going to adjust it. But then no matter what, you can always come down and press, put your garment in there, press to make sure you're getting adequate pressure. Also on some of the higher end heat presses, they are all going to have a pressure gauge. So you're going to know if it's a 1 or a 9. So if it says medium pressure, you're going to look for that 4 or 5 range. But just remember, on some of your economy presses or your hobby presses, you're not going to find that feature.
Okay, so then there obviously would test. I heard they do a paper test where they make sure the paper can't move in and out. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's a little side trick you can do with the heat press to make sure you have adequate pressure. You can literally put a standard piece of 8.5 by 11 piece of paper in each corner, and really you should not be able to pull it out. It should be stuck in there. That's how you're going to make sure you're going to get decent pressure.
Clever. So obviously we've done over that, and as far as pressure, we've gone with the time, but obviously the other part of it is we're using heat transfer vinyl, so we have to have heat. So heat is our third tip and trick here is what I need about heat in my heat press.
Again, I'm going to relate it back to the different styles and quality and levels of heat presses. Some heat presses have a dial like you would stick into steak. That's okay, right? But it's not going to be as accurate as something that has that good digital readout. And even though no matter what with that, you still can trust it a lot more. You can set multiple temperatures and everything as well with that. But what you really need to make sure you're doing is testing your heat. You may tell you that your heat press is at 300 degrees, but that thing could be at 340 or could be at 260. So there's tools out there to test your heat press. We have them at heattransferhouse.com. That's a heat test strip. You put them in the 4 corners of your heat press, and it makes sure if you have your heat press set at 300, that test strip is going to show that it's at 300 degrees.
So going back to temperature, obviously you can get a economy press. I've seen them out there, and they run really reasonable. But then I see presses that are going for like $1,500, and I've been told the heating element is obviously very critical in these presses. Is that true?
Yes. So really, in the heating elements of any high quality heat press, really what you're getting is a coil system within that heating element. So you don't have heating from the middle and it's just supposed to radiate to the outside. The coil, as soon as it's hot here, it's hot over here.
So AJ, time, temperature, and pressure. We've talked about those. Those are key, obviously, and then you notice the wide range of differences as far as prices. What can you tell me more about how the investment part is when I look at investing in a heat press?
So when it comes to your heat press and being in part of your shop, a heat press, don't go to the lower end. You're gonna run into issues. We ran into issues with customers having, working with Caesar EasyWeed, which is the most lenient product to work with in the industry, with a cheap, inexpensive heat press. That's a 16 by 20 for $250. They're no go. You run into cold spots and everything else. So you're looking for that quality heat press, anything Hottronics, Geonite, Hicks, Insta, anything like that. You're gonna get that lifetime warranty on the heating element. You're gonna get that service that goes with their heat press. So if anything does happen, they're gonna be right there for you to make sure you are ready to go in a timely manner.
So another thing to touch on, obviously, folks, is warranty is key, and having a warranty of the heat press, because that is part of your business, very important.
Yes, yes it is.
So we've talked about the heat presses, time, temperature, and press. Now it's time, I'm gonna buy a heat press, AJ. Where do I start? If I'm a guy just getting into it from the craft side, or if I'm a guy like a Vision, and I'm like, all right, I am going full bore, where do I go?
You kind of have to look at that sweet spot. So maybe even attending a trade show, doing your research online to know what you're gonna need. You're gonna run into size issues with 9 by 13 over here. But on this 16 by 20 over here, this has interchangeable platens. The top stays the same, but the bottom gets smaller. So again, it gives you that ability to kind of have a little bit more flexibility. So really when choosing a heat press, knowing what kind of features it has, longevity it's gonna have, support it's gonna have is key. Second is to make sure that it's gonna fit what you wanna do. If you wanna just do standard simple tiles, maybe just a small little platen heat press is all you need. But if you want to do a range of garments of different sizes, a heat press of this size that you can change out the bottom platen is maybe what you're looking for.
I'm gonna do just dye sub, what would I look for?
So if you're just doing dye sub, I would recommend just a high-end swing away heat press where that platen is gonna come straight down onto your substrate.
It's like it doesn't even pressure. So go back to those interchangeable platens. Why would I look for that? I mean,
Well, what's really cool, Hottronics has a lot of different interchangeable platens for even can koozies, pant legs, smaller little, just even 6x6 or 5x5 bottom platen for if you're just doing a left chest or a sleeve or anything like that. So it's just kind of nice that only part of your garment is actually getting touched by the heat and you're more focused on just your transfer area.
So now thinking about that, can I just go plug these heat presses in, or what do I have to do?
Yeah, so when it comes to power, if you're worried anything about power, anything in the standard line of heat transfer machines, all you have to worry about is how many other things are plugged into that area. Most of these are going to be acceptable to a 110 outlet with no problems. It's more when you get into the ones that are involved with air pressure and just a lot more things going on with the heat press that you may have to worry about, more power.
So just make sure that you have a proper plug-in. Do not just go plug it into your standard power strip. Make sure you got proper circuits help.
Yeah.
Make sure it runs properly. And obviously, when does it pull the most as far as power?
Most of the time when it's pulling the most power is right when you're flipping it on. That's when you got to worry about it. So if you turned it on and it didn't pop a circuit or a breaker, you're good to go. And that's when you're going to be just fine. It's more when you're running other things that are turning on and off on that same circuit that you're going to have to worry about anything.
In closing, to think about it, we've obviously covered time, temperature, and pressure when buying your heat press. But also think about buying the heat press that's going to expand with your business, because you'll be surprised how quickly that business can grow and the options you will find that you're going to be pressing on. So, AJ, I'm ready to buy the heat press. Where am I going to go?
You can find all these heat presses and all the information we talked about today by going to heattransferwarehouse.com. Also, don't be afraid to give us a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on that notification bell so you can know when we upload new videos. We want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.